All right, guys, welcome to the Here's How podcast. So today I have my guest, which we're in probably one of the coolest locations that I think we'll ever do a podcast. So we're in Stoke Resorts. So we have co-founders of the area, Marcel Leblanc, Mario Leblanc, brothers. I guess the question is, how do you try to separate the being brothers and doing it together? Does that make it difficult, or is it a better dynamic?
I think we had to figure a couple things out, but we got it down path now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked together on numerous projects along the
Right.
way, so we knew our strengths and our weaknesses, and we know how to complement each other. So far it's been good and not without challenges, but it's been generally good.
And so obviously, like I grew up with you guys, and I think I've seen like your dynamic of like you've got two kind of different energies to it. So I've always found you kind of complement each other. So that's. But listen, we're here, and I think we want to talk about like this project here. Let's start off from the beginning, because like people that are watching this right now, like they obviously don't know the history from it. So I mean, what came about from why this area here?
Well, as you know, we snowboarded as teenage our teenage years. Spent a lot of time at Poley Mountain. From jigging school. Sorry, Mom. To just
She knows.
spending.
She knows.
She knows. She knows that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just spending so much time here, just fell in love with the area, right? And it was always a dream to have our own spot here, to being able to spend the night or whatever, right? Enjoy it with friends and have a good time. So that's where we bought the camp, which is just next door,
Right.
and that fell into, hey, imagine building something that people can stay here with us, right? So
Now,
sharing that.
Do you have like when you started with your camp on the other side, was this piece of land with it?
No,
Or-
so we bought that piece of land first for 5 years, I'd say,
Or more.
before buying this, or more, probably that's 5 to 7 years, and then this piece came for sale.
Yeah.
And we saw it said recreational use on this for sale sign.
Okay.
So we're like, Mars, we have to buy that. Nobody else is going to build a resort next to our camp.
But that was before the zoning. So remember early on, we bought this kind of blind, and the zoning for the whole area from here to Fundy. So after they invested all this money in doing the Fundy Parkway connector, so before you used to have to go all the way around the mountain to the highway to go to Fundy National Park, but then they built that new road, which brought a whole bunch of traffic here. So the whole idea was that this whole region would be rezoned, but there was no guarantee for this parcel, so we still jumped on
COVID, so they were in the process of the rezoning. COVID hit, so then everything stopped.
Right.
And then we had a purchase and sale on the land, so then we still went through with it.
Yeah.
Because we talked to a couple people around and said, like, it's gonna happen.
Right.
When, we're not really sure, but so we kind of took the leap.
You felt confident enough
and
to...
we took the leap and bought the land, and it
made a couple phone calls.
so it worked.
It helped.
Now, obviously, like, I guess my perspective on places like this and what you see often is kind of like those domes, right? Did you have an idea of maybe like, because this is like totally different, right?
For sure. Well, it started with the idea of let's build domes on that ridge, right? Because we're on top of a ridge here, and the ridge was already built, the road was already built up top.
Right.
So it's like, imagine having a row of domes right on the ridge.
Right.
But then there's a lot of other projects, domes out there, so we're like, let's do something
Kind of different.
Let's blow
different,
domes
right?
out of the water. It's
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
I remember very quickly it went from Mario visiting a dome site, coming back saying, it's not necessarily how it comes across in the pictures.
Okay.
It might not last that long. You have to replace the tarp, etc. And then with his background in construction, it was like it quickly shifted in. Well, let's make something a little bit more rigid or permanent.
Right.
And then as soon as we kind of shifted our mindset to let's build something permanent, we said, well, then let's make something several notches up in experience or in, wow factor. So that was part of the mission very early on.
So was there a kind of, because you look at a lot of people would probably look at a project like this and resonate with them being like, oh, I might want to, build in a remote location or anything like that. Was there anything like, obviously this is for people to come experience it. It's not necessarily you guys living in it. Was there anything that were like, non-negotiables for it or things that you wanted people to experience that you incorporated in here? How did that process go?
One thing for sure, it was we debated over the large windows for a long time, right? So we looked at the vinyl option, which we needed some larger beams across the windows versus the curtain wall, which we have now. So we only have the slim barriers in between the windows, and those things was the non-negotiables. The couple key items, right? Which is the view. We're up on the mountain, so we can't sacrifice that. We'll sacrifice something else before that. The whole being inside, outside, like the wood, that actually, you guys supplied us, made that product.
Great product,
amazing outside and inside, but when you look through the windows, the lines follow. So the soffit matches inside, so it's like a seamless inside-outside kind of look, and that's part of the project. You're inside, but you feel like you're outside. So, a couple things that were like, nope, we're not touching that. Nope, we're not touching the windows.
A lot of it came from design too, right? We had a lot of help in the early phase with Spitfire. We worked with Julie.
For sure.
So there's a lot from the onset. So once we decided to build something remarkable, we kind of, we didn't really cheap out or take the easy way. We really invested a lot from the start. And design. So we also wanted this to be little slices of paradise for everybody. So everything from the offset of every cabin, from the little notches of extra material, so it cuts your line of sight between each cabin. So really have your own little sanctuary. The only one that I've realized, like we debated for probably the whole build, was the TVs, really.
Having one or not.
Because we said, well, we want people to come here and disconnect. But we also wanted something ultra luxurious, so we came in hard with the high-speed internet, smart TV.
Would you say that at one point there might have been even like a thought of making it like really like off-grid, or is that kind of too challenging for like
It was never the idea, just because it was the luxury.
Right.
Again, you can have off-grid luxury, I'm sure. We might have plans later for some off-grid stuff. We have 40 acres of land here. It goes away up to Poley, so I mean, we have some cool little ideas down the sleeves that we might do off-grid stuff. But obviously, for these cabins, it wasn't really ever.
It wasn't a priority, but sustainability is a priority. So green was not necessarily ultimate. Push comes to shove is not something we necessarily, mostly because we knew we had to power hot tubs, because that was a key element in the luxury experience. But definitely sustainability, sustainable practices. So little things like reusable bags and containers, and so we've put some thought into being eco-conscious with the spray foam, with Greenfoot, etc. So we did what we could to this point, and I think to Mario's point, there's a lot of talk about next phases and what those might look like, and whether or not those might be off-grid or more bare.
And I guess part of the process for the first go at doing this is just succeeding at finishing the project, right? So when you start thinking about adding those layers of like, eco-friendly, maybe like solar power, all those things, it does probably, and you've been in construction for most of your life, it does add a lot of complexities to the project, right?
It's another component to the build, right? So it's not conventional that you just, it's definitely something super cool and interesting that I think we will entertain sometimes. But
it's also tough too, because once you go there, you almost have to go all the way there. So you want your certification. Well, having the certification means, if you want to use it and promote it, you need to uphold certain standards. So there's a whole bunch of, I don't want to call it red tape, but there's standards to be not only kept during the build, but maintained in the long term too. So to your point, right now it's about validating, getting it across the finish line, opening, and providing a phenomenal experience for our guests. And then we can learn from that and do better.
Yeah. Now going from like obviously these things start as like 3D renderings and you have like the vision in your mind and all that and have you found that vision changed over time? Like did you change any elements like as the build was going on where it was like, oh yeah, I thought about doing, this area like this, but we quickly change it into something else?
Some minor details. I mean, the structure and everything else.
Yeah.
We
Of
180
course,
them.
trying to.
Shit.
Something blinked here.
The power, I think.
Power, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey Google, turn all the lights on.
Try again in a few seconds.
Yeah, some minor things, of course. Like this window here wasn't there,
Okay.
but we were in the bathroom. Like with all the windows, we're not even letting
Get a
the
little bit
light
of
come
light.
into when you're taking your shower, whatever. So we put
Yeah.
frosted glass there.
Nice.
That library behind the ladder there.
Yeah.
We added those for the book. Small things, right? As
Yeah.
you're kind of building, we took our time. We just looked into a couple minor changes, but overall it's
Yeah.
pretty as per plan.
I mean, yeah, I remember quite vividly, seeing the renderings
Yeah.
of a bunch of cabins lined up on the ridge
Yeah.
here, and that was just a hell yeah right
Yeah,
away. It
yeah.
was like, oh yeah, this is next level.
I remember seeing those renderings too,
Exactly
all that
right.
was
We
like-
would share
yeah.
them to a
Yeah.
few close friends and family. But the main one I guess we would have changed due to several challenges early on was scaling down the project, and then instead of going with several. Going to two of the larger cabins
Right.
instead of like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And we also introduced, Mira came up with this little tiny pod that
Yeah,
we
which
have
is
down
pretty
here,
cool. Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
really unique in its
Yeah.
own way.
Yeah.
And then, the styling's the same. It's kind of this little box with a
Yep.
slanted roof. So, we still came up with 3 cabins, 2 unique accommodations.
Yep.
So that kind of came up from scratch as we went.
Yep.
We were lucky enough to have some cool trades involved, and yeah, they came up with a lot of the stuff on the go, so it was cool.
Now, in terms of like, obviously, people probably are curious about how your timeline started, and were there any delays? Did it go as planned? Talk to me,
as per plan.
which it never
Nothing
does,
went as per
right?
plan,
Well, we
yeah.
started in November.
October-ish, November,
Okay.
we started.
Yeah.
We had the post decks in,
Yeah.
techno post, sorry. And then we started framing in the winter.
Yeah,
Up a
right.
mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah, and then half the building is a big open space where
Right.
we're plugging in a curtain wall. So half
Right.
of the building was exposed. So
Okay.
every snowstorm, there was 2 feet of snow inside.
Oh shit.
So right, but it was like we got this. We just kept
Yeah.
trucking, and
Keep plugging.
once it was closed in, then it wasn't so bad. But it took us about a year to do all 3 cabins,
Yeah.
which is not
Not unrealistic, right?
unrealistic. So.
If someone were to be looking at this project as something they could compare about like building their own house, like especially like in a remote location, what would you say are things that they should be conscious of, I guess?
Building there.
Right.
No. Kidding.
But I mean, would you say like
no,
obviously, the timeline, like you said, like your timeline, everything doesn't go as planned. Like,
obviously the getting the right help to build to, right? It was hard to find. We tried to find as many local trades as we could,
Okay.
right? The plumber, the excavation. We tried to find local trades to help
Yep.
us out, right?
Yep.
Community vibe. That's what we try to bring the community in, but
Yep.
so we had to bring trades a lot of trades from Moncton.
Yep.
The suppliers weren't as bad because deliveries, well, it's fine. Like you guys delivered here, no problem, no issues. So just make sure you have your trades lined up, right?
yeah,
Small
yeah.
communities, their trades are busy
Right.
already.
yeah.
Planning, of course,
Yeah.
right? Planning for sure. Get your
Scheduling.
stuff lined up.
I mean, like you think about things like obviously there was no, like you weren't set up for like water here or electricity, all of that stuff. That must be kind of a complicated matter.
So here, the water here was a tricky one. Of
Okay.
course, you're up a mountain, you don't know where drilling your well.
Okay.
You know when you're going to hit water. We actually got some good water here. We hit some, but we had to get pretty creative with the amount of water that we get. What do you call that? There,
Like the volume.
flow volume or
Okay.
the volume of the water
Yeah.
was low. So we came up with a great solution. It works. We have a big water tank, and but
Is good pressure too.
great pressure. It
Nice.
worked. But those little things you don't really know, and we just did that at close to the end. We're like, all right, we need water. We're moving in, or we got guests coming
see
in
how this goes.
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, you don't have enough. The water is not. So a couple things like that when you're dealing with well and septics. Right?
Yeah.
A bit different than connecting to the city's water and the sewer, and you're good to go.
So, like, who, like, I mean, it probably sounds like a dumb question in a certain sense, but, like, typically, like, in your mind, what type of person is this for? Like, what type of, is it an adventure seeker, or is it even, it could be anybody? Like,
So, I mean, this Stoke Resorts is built for anybody who's really looking to find comfort within their adventure.
Yeah.
We call these, your adventure base camps. And I
Okay.
think that encompasses really a lot of what we have to offer.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what kind of adventure you're in for. It
Yeah.
could be just driving the Fundy Trail Parkway and looking at the sights.
Yeah.
It could be a Sunday drive, or it could be, hiking the bluff, or even
Right.
split boarding
Yeah.
from your cabin to the hill, and
Right.
split boarding back. So I think we have a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah.
But the ideal is somebody who really likes to get outside. They have the gear. They spent the money. They're not afraid to spend money on experiences. Right. So whether that be the gear to do the sport, or to have the place next to the mountain.
Yeah.
So that would really be our target person is, young adult who really enjoys, taking some time for the outdoors and to appreciate nature, and really just wants to submerge themselves in an experience.
Probably one of the guests you'd probably not want to come would be, like, 18-year-old me and you, right?
Totally.
So we go to the Border Tech days?
Those guys are banned.
Yeah,
We go to those days?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's obviously on Airbnb, right? How have you found the process of getting into hospitality, going through the Airbnb process? Like, how's that been so far?
That's been interesting. We
Yeah.
were lucky enough to be surrounded by some great people who
Okay.
already are in the hospitality business. So
Okay.
we've got a lot of help from other hosts.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sarah, who was a huge help from Elbow Room in Moncton. And also our buddy Austin has a couple.
sure.
So
Okay.
we had some help with setup, but mostly it was a challenge. But really, Airbnb is a great platform
Right.
for the introduction. They've seen people go through what we're gonna have been and gonna be going through.
Yep.
And really, it was quite. It was time consuming. There was a lot
Right.
of mistakes done at the start, like
Okay.
little. You had to start over a couple times.
Okay.
But there are mistakes you don't do twice.
What do you find, how have you found, like, are you still working through the kinks right now? Obviously, like, with hospitality comes, like, the cleanup and, vetting your guests, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, how's that been?
So it's been kind of let's call it a slow opening, meaning we kind of started really with a lot of restrictions.
Right.
And then slowly, as we're learning and getting bookings and interacting with potential guests, we're slowly kind of, opening up as we learn and read and adapt. So it's been, it's been an interesting learning curve, but yeah, it's been the seamless transition from what is Stoke to I want to book Stoke.
Yeah.
That's something that really had to come from vision to reality, and linking all that was quite
And I
interesting.
think, like we were talking earlier, and I think you're going in the right direction with it, but you're obviously looking to create almost like a digital experience for the guests, to kind of like someone that's maybe seeking some information on like how the process works, like what should I expect? You're putting some effort into that, right?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of time, energy, and effort were put into the experience itself. It'll, it's a little hard to see all of it now, but people who have come through already, they message us and say like, man, you've really thought of everything. And we even have a few surprises up our sleeves for people. Little things like, we've thought of having a YouTube channel, which has, instructional videos of everything in the cabin. So this pull-out couch, the fireplace, the hot tub. So we have kind of, little 2-minute clips of, the walkthrough and every little thing that you might need to know. And we'll be updating that as we get feedback. So the experience and, we've also spent time living here and spent some time here. So we've lived here. We know where the stuff in the kitchen should be and, where should your towels be and what's missing. So we've kind of reiterated and made some tweaks along the way to really bring that experience together.
And that part of the experience, like especially in hospitality, is making sure that you check all the boxes for the guests, right?
Especially when you're charging for it. We've all come across these Airbnbs where the property's bought with the purpose of throwing some some glassware in there and a few towels and just kind of putting it on Airbnb. Like people inherit cabins and they just kind of furnish them and away they go. We've kind of picked a trail that's a little, we picked the other trail, where it was, we built it for the hospitality, the experience. We call it a resort because we're really trying to build a resort here, right? As opposed to a cabin. There's a difference between a resort and a couple cabins. And, we're starting with a couple cabins, but the vision is, resort or resorts.
So I guess, and for me, and it was probably a realization for you guys and probably for a lot of people that have grown up in the era, I'm thinking like, why has this never been done? Like, because we've been like, it's only a 40-minute drive, and I mean, like we're based out of Moncton, and you've got St. John that's probably as close as that, but like you're still 40 minutes up, 40 minutes down every time. I'm thinking like, what would be stopping someone?
So central.
Well, before the zoning, you could do these types of resorts before. So that I think that stopped some development, right?
It was also not easy to find land. Like we had to. I remember we only really got anywhere finding land once my parents, our parents, were retired and started spending a lot more time here. Got a little ingrained with the locals. And then word spread that we were looking, and then we got leads here and there. And of course, there are some on listed with realtors, but they're few and far between. So it's a lot. It's a lot of word of mouth here. So we were kind of fortunate enough to really land on a great piece of land, and then which curated our experience here. And then we said, well, turned into let's find some more, right?
And so, I mean, how are you envisioning, like, I would say probably, we're sitting here today and it's December 18th and piss-pouring rain. How do you envision, like, the aspect of coming here for snowboarding and how it's going to influence it based on weather now? And do you see an impact on that? And alternatively, I mean, now there's mountain biking, right? That's probably a big advantage.
Mountain biking's got a big season, right? So they open in May?
June. I think they're going to be longer seasons.
So the season's very long for mountain biking.
And it's super fun.
With our trail, with our land that connects to Poley now, right? We plan on building these trails that connect to Poley. So you can bike up, ride, bike back to your cabin, skin or hike up and ski back down. Poley's been great with us so far, collaborating, right?
Have they been really receptive to the idea?
Very good,
They've been good, They've been good. They're engaged. They're, obviously they're having, right now they're prepping for opening and they're snowmaking. So I think, we're hanging a lot of our momentum early on Poley, because right now we are the new cabins next to Poley, right? But the mountain biking's a game changer. In the fall they have their fall festival. You got the balloon festival. So it's funny because a lot of people, when they first hear of, oh, you're building cabins next to Poley, they're like, it like you see it in their eyes. They're like, oh well, they at first they're questioning like, oh well, it doesn't snow anymore. To your point, like how are you going to sustain a business in a 2-month long winter?
Yeah.
But then like, oh, there's biking, and then we kind of come back with, well, no, we expect this to be a year-round thing.
100%.
Because you have more than just Poley here. Yes, Poley has their 2 staple seasons, snow and bike. But you have the Fundy Trail Parkway, you have Fundy National Park, you have the Bluff, which we've fat biked. Remember that?
Yeah. True.
So there's the Balloon Fiesta, and I think it's just such a rad area that just showcasing the cool waterfalls, the cool hike, just having a look at our guide on Airbnb. It has all the cool restaurants and the ski shops, and it sounds like it's a really cool town. So there's lots to do.
Not to forget too, like just our land, right? We have 42 acres of land here, and we have already built 2 trails just to walk around, go for a nice little hike. Yeah. And we plan on building like a big trail system, right?
Yeah.
So
potentially a little snowboard park
here, of course.
We found the Stoke Zone.
Last
weekend, we found the Stoke Zone. Nice. Shout out to the crew on the opening weekend. We had a little opening shindig, and the next morning we went for a little foggy hike. Yeah. And we found some pretty wicked steep terrain for riding. So we have the slope, we have the incline. I think once we're able to get back there with some machinery and a couple buckets, we'll be able to build some cool trails. But we have 2 hiking trails right now. One that links to Poley, and one that just goes along a very peaceful brook that's actually really cool just on its own little loop.
So, I mean, we talked a lot about this area here, but, this is, obviously not the full-time thing, right? Like you're with Lumar and you're with Louis Boule. Yep. How have you found like juggling, having a project of such importance like this one and also obviously working full-time? How has that been?
Obviously having great trades and, obviously we build some apartments and stuff as well. So, connecting with all the trades and suppliers like Home Hardware, having the right contacts and just, knowing the process as well, right? So being surrounded by great people. And, of course, we put a lot of time here, like, every evenings and nights and weekends we were
got to do the sacrifices.
Come check up on the project. You kind of just fit it in, right, when it's a thing you're really passionate about. You want to. It's almost fun. It brought me here more often too, which was
true.
Awesome, right? So it's like, well, I haven't been here as much as when I built the resort, right? So
true.
For me, it was really time management. I always believed in the concept that if you make something a priority, you'll make it happen. And I've always managed to run a full-time practice, being financial advisor and wealth management. So I've always had these, whether it was being a CrossFit coach or doing this startup or that startup, I've always, been very disciplined with my time. And luckily, I'm currently with an employer that's very flexible. And it's been fantastic. Everybody's been supportive, and having the right people and just being surrounded by the right team, having the right support around us has been key to being able to do something like this on top of, being, young parents with young kids and juggling full-time work as well.
So is there anything you would say that like kind of would be a good learning lesson from, any person that might be looking at this being like, oh, you know what, like I'm not currently doing my passion project, but if there's something you could say that'd be like, hey, this is how we started and this is what you really need to focus on. Is there anything that kind of pops up in your mind? Like,
I mean, for me, every project that I've done was if it naturally falls into place and everything's just checkboxing and it's working, keep pushing, even if like it feels like you're gonna hit one that's gonna be like kind of scares you. Like if it just works and it's presenting to you, and the next steps are there, just keep rolling with it, right? Just keep going, and then eventually it just happens.
Here we are.
Yeah.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right? But if you have a passion for it, naturally the next steps kind of just take place, right? So
I'm going to take the other side. I'm very structured.
Okay.
So for me, the number one takeaway from, my number one tool is my planner, the pen and paper planner where I'll map out my week and figure out which pockets of time
And you're
between
blocked off to
appointments
do it, right?
they're blocked off, or if they're not blocked off, you find the block, or you
Yeah.
make the block, you
Yeah.
shuffle things, or you reschedule something half an hour earlier to make time for.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge help for me,
Mm-hmm.
waking up in the morning and having my day pre-planned.
Yeah.
I know what are my 3 things that I need to do, what are my 3 priorities today, and where am I intended to slide them in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's been a huge help, using a legit just pen and paper planner. I'm a lot better when I do that than when I don't.
Yeah.
Just get away. I don't
Then you're
feel good, and then you're
all over the
anxious.
place,
and it's a disaster.
Now, both of you have kids, so obviously, they must find some enjoyment in this year. Do you think this is gonna give them, I guess, the same childhood as you've had, or was that even in kind of the...
With the kids part, it's super cool. Like we were talking about this. We were here the other day. We were actually in the hot tub just
Yeah.
chilling, and we're like, man, isn't this cool? Like the kids they saw this project from nothing,
Yeah.
an idea,
Yeah.
talking about it all day long
Yeah,
to my
yeah, yeah.
wife and the kids, and
Yeah.
between us as a family, just talking about this idea.
Yeah.
And then they came here when it was just framing, and when they helped
Yeah.
clean the lumber around the garbage.
Yeah.
And then now they saw it finished. They came here, they enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
hot tubs are like, so it's super cool to be able to show your kids, like, when you have an idea,
Yeah.
to kind of just show them that. So,
Yeah.
and it's been a big plan for us to have the camp for my father's,
Yeah.
like, your kids and their kids are going to have this camp
Yeah,
forever and
yeah,
ever and ever.
yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of our thing. It's our plate,
Right.
like the camp
Yeah.
is, right? And so, yeah, we hope that it's going to, be that, like, the thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
we used to go to Sussex and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and
been cool, for sure.
it's been a fantastic gateway to not only what we've started to experience when we were junior high school, but it's just starting a little bit earlier because of
Yeah.
us putting some roots down here, right? So my kids are learning to mountain bike. My 9-year-old's mountain biking now, and his kids are mountain biking now. So it's cool to just see access to what still keeps us stoked to this day.
Yeah.
As I'm pushing 40 now, so it's cool to see that stoke intergeneration.
Yeah.
And to Mario's point, it's also very cool. Like on the launch day, I got a video text from my oldest daughter congratulating us on the launch.
way, yeah.
They couldn't be here, but they were stoked nonetheless. Of congrats, you
Yeah.
made it. It's open, so they've seen it from beginning to end. So I think that I think that's a great message to anybody who wants to lend an ear, that you can push through challenges, and it's possible to bring things to the finish line. And it's important.
And there's so many like great little things in this area of the world. Like, even though like we sometimes maybe take it for granted, I think that, without, I think these ideas and the pioneers like you guys that are like, what, screw it, we're gonna do this project. It might be the craziest thing, and it might
So many people told us, like, that curtain wall, like, you're gonna fucking rip. Sorry, my language.
No,
You're gonna rip
you're
the
fine.
bank
You're
with that.
fine.
Like, you're not.
Yeah.
Like, you should go vinyl. You should like.
Yeah.
And he's like, why would you do these big windows, or why would you do this, or why would you, like, what about the driveway? It's so steep. It's like, we could have said, like, you're right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, nah, this is gonna be so badass.
Yeah.
You're gonna be so stoked coming here. Like, just give us a year.
And
Yeah.
I would say 10 on 10 execution, like really.
Yeah,
It's,
and there's
Yeah.
some to, I like the notion of, like, when they say in touring, like, earning your turns.
right.
You're kind of earning your experience here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have to,
Yeah.
if you can't make it up the driveway for whatever reason, then yeah, maybe you hike up.
Yeah.
Or, you have to plan your trip. You have to, and once you get here, you get the reward. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like touring in the backcountry. It's a long and arduous, mission to get up there. But once you're up there, very few people have been up there.
Yeah.
You get the freshest and the best lines that
Yeah.
anybody else
Totally.
is getting. So, there's some to be said for
Earn your
the
views.
adventure. Earn your
Yeah.
views. Yeah. Earn your stoke.
Yeah, man.
So
For
what's
sure.
the, like, you've been talking about, it's potentially in phases, right? Like, how have you structured that out? Is there like what's the next step from here?
couple directions.
Okay.
But yeah,
Got
we
plans.
definitely have a phase 2.
Okay.
We're not sure exactly yet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, there's I mean, when any
we're not going to
project,
tell anybody. So
No,
we're
no,
Yeah, yeah.
not going to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
you what it's going to look like.
it's all about keeping the cat in the bag.
That's
That's
it.
first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I think we did a decent job at this launch. We had people curious, but the next one's going to be much of the same.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little harder to keep under wraps just because people will be staying here, and if
for
we're
sure.
building something, the cameras will be out. But we definitely have lots of room. We're not short on ideas. But just like any project of magnitude, there are business constraints, whether
Right.
it's financing, time, location, environmental considerations. So we're looking at several avenues, and we're pretty confident that the next phase will be, either an extension of the current awesomeness or something completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
that
Adding
is-
on to it too, right? Just
yeah,
different.
more of it.
We'll see.
How's the community in Sussex been welcoming of it? Obviously there's a lot of cool local businesses here too.
Yeah.
Have they been pretty receptive
Super
to?
good. I mean,
yeah.
Mars is really has been putting a lot of time connecting with local businesses.
Yeah.
We went to the Fundy Connect event
Yeah.
at Poley, right? Connected with all
Okay.
the local businesses around.
Yeah.
A great committee there. They're pushing to build the whole area, and
Yeah.
it's a lot about connecting with businesses to businesses. So, we've been putting a lot of time and effort into that, and I think it shows the community. Like on the grand opening, like a bunch of the neighbors are all
Yeah.
here, and they were all very
Yeah, it was quite a big
nice, and,
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I was blown away by
Yeah.
the amount of locals versus I thought it would be more of like
Your
our
buddies,
friends
stuff
or
like that.
whatever,
Yeah,
right? But,
yeah.
like, we had
It's a
more
good mix.
locals here looking and asking questions and wondering what it was than our friends and family almost. So
Nice.
yeah,
And we're building, we're definitely slowly getting more ingrained in the local community in Sussex. I mean, we have some roots with Johnny from Outdoor Element.
Nice, yeah.
Shout out to Johnny.
Which
Yeah,
he's always
yeah.
been big in the outdoor
So
community. right?
we
Yeah.
love that shop. We've been going
Yeah.
there for a long time.
Yeah.
Sussex,
Shout out
Aylward,
to
Yeah.
Sussex friends, Elena and Rick from Sussex Aylward.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Little
have
plug
one.
for them.
There you
All right.
go.
Piccadilly Coffee too.
for sure.
So they've provided the coffee experience. So we've found and made headways with local entrepreneurs and just like-minded businesses who kind of, for lack of a better word, share the Stoke. And
Yeah.
it's been fantastic. Poley's on board, the local adventure shop's on board, the beer shop's on board, the coffee shop's on
What else do you
board.
need?
So it's been
Yeah.
really cool. And the neighbors, we met a lot of the our proximity neighbors at our event, and they were quite enthusiastic as well. So they
Yeah.
were like, it was really cool.
So are there any apart from you two really, spearheading this project here, is there anyone working behind the scenes helping you out with the project?
Yeah, we have Lisa.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lisa. She's awesome.
'Kay.
She's our caretaker for the resort.
Cool.
She takes care of, making sure it's
Everything.
clean,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
making sure the beer will be stocked if you pre-order some Sussex Ale Works.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, and everything in between. She's awesome. She's I think she's a local.
Yeah,
She lives
she lives-
here.
yeah.
Not sure if she's local, like
Yeah,
born
yeah.
and raised, but she
think
lives
so.
just down the road. She's been awesome so far. She lives the Stoke for sure. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great match. It really worked out. She's been involved for a few months now, and she's really helped us put things together, get the cabins organized.
Yeah.
And she'll be a key team member as we get into hosting people. She'll be a key resource and person and team member. So employee one.
There you go.
yeah.
And hopefully growing, right? You obviously want
Yes.
to see an area like this.
But there's been lots of friends and family
Yeah.
too supporting us. Our parents have been a huge
Yeah,
help.
yeah, our
Our
parents helped us.
families have been a
yeah.
huge help as well. And we just have quite a remarkable group of friends with particular skill sets or whatever. And that's definitely a huge part of what we've been able to accomplish is a sum of many parts.
Yeah.
As much as we may be spearheading and be the founders, we didn't do this alone at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially and no offense to you guys on how good you are at building and planning and all of that, you clearly didn't do the decor inside.
No.
Yeah, big shout out to
You're not that good.
No, for sure, no. No,
Sophie.
Sophie Aubé Légère for sure. Big
Sincerely,
shout out to her.
Sophie.
She did that, and my wife too, Colombe.
Yeah.
She was very much involved in a lot of the decor and
And it's got a good feel to it. Like
so-
it's got like that more modern cabiny feel with some of those earthy tones and stuff like that, which really does the trick, right?
Yeah, it was definitely. It
fits.
worked out. It fits perfect.
Yeah, the old skis, and even in the pod, there's an old map of Poley Mountain in there.
No way,
and,
yeah.
There's some really nice touches that the books. I'm blown away by the books.
Yeah. Good find,
mountains,
Sophie.
Mountains,
awesome.
cabins. So she really captured a lot of us, which comes across in the cabin.
Yeah, I mean, we snowboarded with Sophie.
Yeah, true.
That's right.
Since the whole idea of Poley, like she was there with us.
Right.
Poley Border Tech days, right? It was. She was there.
She drives. She drive us to and from.
Yeah,
often.
that's right. She was the only one with a license.
At some point,
Yeah.
So do you guys have any other ideas outside of this still brewing? Because you guys have always had that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Are you like, is there anything else that kind of...
Well, I mentioned it earlier. There's, Resorts has an S at the end of it.
Right.
And so as much as we're looking forward to developing what we've, the flagship, which would be here, there are other really cool areas in Atlantic Canada. And we have some pretty gnarly ideas on how we can, plant other remarkable flags on this amazing part of the world.
So if you have a piece of land
Yeah.
that you want to part with, that's dope.
Worthy.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Would you ever think of maybe like franchising it, or maybe thinking about it like in a perspective where it's like you kind of sell the experience or like the brand and have other people do it? Or
The brand, it's interesting. We were really inspired from brands that we experienced when we were traveling out west, particularly in BC.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were building this, there's a root there from
Well, the
a
Stoke
culture.
name, right? So
Yeah.
it was an idea, Stoke, but we're like, we can't call it just Stoke. Like it's kind of weird, Stoke.
Yeah.
Like we say I'm stoked.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's just put it there. And then we tried so hard to find another name for it, but it just kept popping up, and it's like,
it's a universal word that I
guess
think
it
everybody
works.
kind of
Stoked.
ties a meaning to it, where it can mean a lot more than just like I'm stoked, but it's like I feel like it has such a like it invites that core memory of like, that first POW run, or like first time you rode a bike without like your training wheels or stuff like that. I think everybody can kind of picture that word towards like the right? So the experience.
And there's also the other side of it. So there's the stoke, that feeling.
Yeah.
But there's also like stoking a fire. So starting from whatever little energy that's
Whatever
left, and
lights
you
you
can
up.
whatever lights you
Stoke.
up, like stoking a
it
fire.
can be whatever it is for you, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of hits. It can be just hanging out, chilling out, and just rejuvenating yourself, and then go back and you're stoked because you relaxed all weekend. You're stoked to go back to your day-to-day life. It can kind of flip and hit everywhere type of thing, right? So it's not just stoked like go
Adrenaline,
hike a mountain and whatever. It can just be like light yourself back up, right? So you can come here, chill, right? Go for a little hike, be in the woods.
Do you now, having built this, and there's obviously going to be a period where people are going to come stay in it and they're going to feel that experience? Do you feel now that there might be other people that might be inspired to want to do something similar in this area? Like, has that come about?
Nothing yet, but
we hope
here
so.
and there, right? But I mean, hey, whatever brings more people to this area,
That's
right?
true.
It's, I think there's room. We got three the biggest, in New Brunswick, the cities, Fredericton's an hour and 20 minutes. St. John, Moncton, 45 minutes, an hour. We got 3 cabins. And potentially more, but there's room for more, and let's bring more people here. It's gonna get all the businesses to thrive in the area and build more activities, right? Activities, things to do around, build the Fundy, so with the Fundy Trail Parkway now too.
That's true.
I mean, a big part of our mission is sustainable economic, viability. So, we talked about the seasonality at Poley, and it's something that we hear them and their board of directors and management over there I think they have a clear motivation of wanting to keep the lights on more often and have more regular hours and extend seasons.
Yeah.
And I think having accommodations like this or having people at their doorstep year round might keep, the restaurant open more regularly,
true, eh?
or the bar, or it might, open the door to more events, music, for the locals here. But also, we see Poley as a hub for the locals and visitors that is not necessarily seasonal. And if we can be a part of that turn, that would be, a considerable feather in our cap for sure.
I really do think that the reintroduction per se of the mountain biking is going to be like a catalyst to their success. But I also I remember right coming out of high school, some friends went to out west, they snowboarded, and then, I had the chance to go out there and snowboard. And I guess when you go there and then you come back here, it kind of sucks that, it sucks that excitement out of, that sucks the stoke out of you, right? But you know what? Just the mountain biking itself, having re-experienced that and gotten back into it, I think is huge. And building that community around the new product that they have there and how you guys are getting involved, I think that's huge, right?
It's so rad too, and they did a killer job. I mean, shout out to Poley for the trail building and Kodiak Trail, Charles there, awesome trail builder, and they really tribute that bike. It was the bike trail two seasons ago that everybody had to hit or at least check out because it had that big gap, and it really put Poley on the map, and they really invested a lot in that mountain biking. And the cool part is for us, and we talked a lot about this, is, we talk about that experience that we've all shared early on, being part of the same snowboard team, snowboarding, being sponsored by the shop, and, doing the event circuit. Well, it's kind of cool that now, to be reliving that with mountain biking because, we're just generally speaking, it's a reason to get out. It's a reason to connect. It's a reason to go camping. And you're kind of reliving that experience as we're.
It feels new again.
It feels new again. You're learning how to bike. Everything's the braking, the timing, your body weight. So as much as we have a lot of hours under our feet on our boards, we have a lot less hours on our bikes. So it's 100%. All new. We're learning, and that stoke is back.
I remember a few times that we've been out and we've taken already quite a few bails, and we're not 18 anymore, right?
No.
You get up and you're like, oh my god,
full pads, full pads, full face, God. But the biking scene, on the East Coast is really picking
Wentworth
up.
opening up too,
sick. There's other, even close to Moncton, there's other kind of more secretive bike spots, and there's kids just ripping. Some really gnarly stuff, and it's been really cool to see, and it's cool to be a part of it.
It's crazy too, because I remember growing up, we really dived into snowboarding, but biking just kind of fell off. We just completely stopped. And now doing it again, I'm hoping that, because I'll tell you what, I found one of the biggest, I guess, mind fucks when it came to snowboarding was how the progression just became at this point, it's not even the same thing anymore, right?
It's crazy.
And for me, thankfully, I've developed a newfound love for backcountry riding, all mountain riding, which has completely changed it versus when we used to hit jumps and rail.
Again, it's like biking. Learning how to ride POW is not the same as
100%.
Hiking that jib.
The park.
50 times, right?
The park 100 times a day.
It's a totally different type of snowboarding, in which we never done here.
That's true.
Now we go on our boys trip once a year, whatever, and we go hit up the big mountains, right? The backcountry stuff. And it's totally different, right? It's not the same riding at all.
So is there anyone you want to kind of thank for helping you out with this project here? Any trades or anything like that?
Yes, of course. First off, Home Hardware, of course.
Thank you, group.
Great support as always on all the projects that we do, not just Stoke, all of them. Big shout out, thank you to all the team there. Nima Construction, right? All the guys.
Another time,
that came through hard
for sure. All the guys, the crew there is amazing. Rock on. Lumar, of course, Lumar
Yeah.
Electric. Two of the
Yeah.
guys, did a great job there. But Greenfoot was here as well.
Yeah.
Fuse Fabrication,
Fuse, yeah.
trying to weld these
You're right,
big
you're right.
6x6 steel beams.
Yeah.
The
Stairs,
ladders
ship
there.
ladders.
Maritime fireplace.
Yeah.
Mike's Insulation was in here. Wildwood Cabinets did an
Wildwood.
amazing
Yep.
job with
Yeah.
the kitchen.
Yep.
Really awesome. Technopew did the foundation.
Yep.
Lebson, Mark and Matt.
Yeah, Mark and Matt for sure. Did Don Landry.
Ah, yeah,
Matt,
Don-
the local Don
Doncor.
Landry,
Nice.
Doncor.
Okay.
He did all the siding and all that.
Oh, yeah, all the stuff at the
installation.
pod too.
Yeah, the pod, all the walkways.
Nice.
Who else? Now I can't forget anybody now.
You're gonna get screwed if you don't.
I know.
If you don't thank
Yeah,
everyone.
but even everybody along the way, you know,
Yeah.
the crew, everybody who's kept snowboarding with us through through the years. Matt Book,
Yeah,
huge,
geez.
Yeah,
huge
lots
shout
of
out to Matt Book for the
content and-
content,
Yeah.
coming here and shooting.
Rich Gould.
Gould.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
He's,
Rich
he was-
Gould is helped us tremendously
He
build
built
the brand.
the look,
Yeah.
and
A lot
the
of
feel
hours
it is all Rich.
Spent
Gould.
early, a lot of a lot of web design and
Yeah.
anyways. So huge shout out to Rich. He's been a huge help and on many of projects. I worked with him on a lot of projects and he's one of the great creative minds in Moncton for sure.
So how do you book? Like, so Airbnb right now, you've got your website.
Yeah.
What's the,
StokeResorts.com.
right?
We're on social media, Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, Stoke Resorts. And on the website, book now. Boom. Click
Book
that,
now,
goes to
perfect.
or Airbnbs. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
The book now will bring you to our Airbnb page, which has all 3 cabins there, and then you can select which ones. And you do need to have an Airbnb profile to go see
Right.
the details and
Yeah.
the full pricing. So we've been getting a lot of calls and emails about how much does it cost.
Yeah.
We can only assume that these people don't have an Airbnb account, so they're
Right.
not,
Yeah.
they're just seeing the listings, but they're not clicking through to get the details. So just create an Airbnb account. For now, that is the way we're choosing to soft launch.
makes sense.
There's a lot of advantages for us to be doing it that way, and we're that's the way we'll be for the foreseeable future. But Airbnb is very user friendly. It's very easy, and it's a great platform for traveling anyways. So we'd highly encourage people to get on there anyways. Great for communicating.
Yep. And vetting, right? You
Vetting,
can kind of,
that was the big thing for
Yeah.
us. You spend a year and all your resources, your time, your energy building something like this, and last thing you want is for something to
to
really go wrong,
happen,
to have a really
yeah.
bad booking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Airbnb helps us vet
Yeah.
people and control a little bit the access here. So
Which makes
it is what it is at the end of the day. We gotta start at our own speed,
that's it,
and then
right?
we'll ramp things up as we go.
It's a new venture, and hospitality can be as much of a really good experience. It can also be a daunting challenge where you're letting people into your home technically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
That's how it feels right now for sure.
yeah. So, well, thanks, guys. This has been obviously
Yeah.
a really great experience, kind of finding out about your project and connecting back on some fond memories we've had in the past. So we obviously
We'll keep the details
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's
the
Once the
details.
cameras are off, we can
Yeah.
keep that conversation.
Thanks a lot, boys.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, cool.
Thanks for having
Cheers.
us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey Google, turn the cameras off.